listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. It's going to be a great show on this Wednesday. I was going to say Tuesday because we weren't on Monday, but Tuesday, September 25th show. Always a great show here on Sudbury News Talk every weekday morning between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, streaming live at cklu.ca on the radio, and we're also video streaming live on facebook.com/Sudbury News and youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the page and the channel, and comment on Facebook and YouTube, because we'll do our best to get the comments up on the screen for those watching and read for those listening. This is your show on your station, CKLU 96.7 FM, been around since 1984. Started off humbly in a little trailer on the Ramsey Lake Road Laurentian campus, and now we're located on the corner of Elgin and Elm Street downtown in the old Telegraph building, part of the new MacEwan School of Architecture. Thanks to Laurentian University for our partnership for this campus and community radio station. They are the campus, you are the community that makes it possible. So make sure while you're at cklu.ca to pick up some merch that helps support the station, or just make a donation. It's the only way the station can keep the airwaves open and the lights on, and this is your station, so it's up to us to keep it going. So again, we have a great show planned for you today. As usual, got off to a small late start this morning, not like it's been, because technology actually, it didn't give us a hard time this morning. It actually worked the way it was supposed to. We got along pretty good. Anyways, so we'll start off with a little bit of weather, come back with the story that we left off with yesterday, and just did not have enough time to unpack the health unit's white supremacy and racism project that's going to be going ahead for 18 months. And so much to say about that. And we're following the British Columbia health protocol, which makes me very afraid, as they basically, it looks like hell on earth. If you look at the streets of Vancouver's east side especially, that's what the health protocols and policies did to that province. Made it very political and very progressive, and harmed a lot of people with their harm reduction agenda. And it looks like our health unit here wants to follow that, regardless of whether our Ontario, the provincial, which they're supposed to be under, health, organization, for lack of a better word, is supposed to be getting their, taking their lead from the provincial health organization, not another provinces, but you can tell where our political leanings are with people in positions of influence here. They're very progressive and very, very, very extreme far left, and we'll show some of these things in what they're planning on doing here with this particular report. I don't know how much white supremacy y'all out there have experienced, but we'll kind of try and call it what it really is and not what it's politicized as being, because there are truths mixed with untruths that are being taught as whole truths, and we want to make sure that everybody is having the conversation that dispels some of those myths, if you will. But there are some real issues there that we don't want to just cloud over and not really look at and say it's all, a bunch of baloney, which it's not. There are some real issues there. But anyways, got that. We got some more local stories and your comments and more after the weather. So we'll be back as soon as I can find this, right after this. And Sudbury Weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently, it is 14 degrees out there with light rain. And today, we can expect more of the rain with showers and a risk of thunderstorms, 20 to 30 millimeters. And wind will be gusting to 40. And then light this afternoon, high of 18. UV index 2 or low. Tonight, showers ending in the evening. Risk of thunderstorm early this evening with a low of 10. Thursday, mainly cloudy, a high of 20, UV index 4. Mainly cloudy again tomorrow, and a high of 20. Sunny on Friday, high of 21. Same thing on Saturday, sunny and 21. Sunday, cloudy with a high of 20. Monday, cloudy as well, high of 18. And Tuesday, showers, chance of showers, 60% chance with a high of 16. And that will give us our 6-day forecast with, some pretty warm temperatures only starting to go down at the beginning of next week. And a look at your satellite. This was taken at about 3 a.m., so 4 hours ago. Just a lot of precipitation activity going on pretty much all across northern and central and even southern Ontario into Quebec. And that system should be moving out and bringing us some nice weather after tomorrow into the weekend. And that's your Sudbury Weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, and welcome back. We have a few people joining us this morning. Yesterday seemed to be quite a few people on at the beginning of the show, and I have an idea why that is, because us not being on for 6 days probably did something to the algorithm and made it so that way it's not in the radar somehow, and it just was organic and just, probably just alerted people to the show like it should all the time. And we had quite a few people, more than usual, on the show yesterday, and it's just my synopsis, but we have some more people joining us now. Nana, good morning. And good morning, friends. Blessings, everyone, and blessings to you as well. Nana, thanks for being on this morning, along with Judy. Nana's on YouTube. Judy's on Facebook. Good morning to you. Marianne on Facebook as well. Good morning to everyone from rainy Barrie. I guess it's just raining everywhere. Denise, good morning and blessings, everyone. Good morning to you. Sheila, good morning from Quebec. Good morning to you, Sheila. Thanks for being on with a Canada flag emoji. And Denise, I'm just sharing someone's name there, probably welcoming them to the show. Appreciate that. Thanks, Denise. And Evelyn, good morning. Hope you had a good holiday. I did. Where are we at today? Well, yes, we are going to dive right in pretty deep for most of the show into a topic that's, maybe we'll dedicate the rest, I don't know, today and tomorrow to it at least. And as we are going to focus on our Friday climate change show, as we usually do on Fridays. But the idea of white supremacy, this idea that's caught on very, as of, more recent times, as I'm trying to struggle for the words. I got a connect here and make sure that my words are well thought out and said with respect and from the heart, because that's where they need to be coming from on a subject like we're going to be talking about today. So that's what we're going to be talking about, because the health unit has a new project here in Sudbury where they're going to be looking at systemic racism in our healthcare system, which I think there is validation for something along those lines, but it's not definitely what they're saying. It's white supremacy and racism that's at the very core of our health system. And we'll talk about that. And my hypothesis is it's not white supremacy, it's elite supremacy. There are certain elites that have formed our healthcare system, not only in Canada, but basically in our Western society. And yes, they happen to be white, but it's not their whiteness that's the problem. It's their eliteness, the fact that they think they're better than everyone else, including white people. And the same systemic problems that we have with our system are not just against people of races other than white. They are against white people as well. So you could also look at poor people as a class, a poor white person or a poor person of color or underrepresented population in this country. You could say there's systemic things against them as well, correct or no? If you're just a free-thinking person, you would say yes. There are systemic problems that we have in our healthcare system, education system, society in general, that put poor people in a different category and treat them differently, regardless of the color of their skin or ethnicity. So this is a complex discussion situation, but we're going to unpack it as good as we can today and go from there. Belinda, good morning. Out of suffering, may you find strength, purpose, and the hero that was always within you, kindness. Kindness is not an act; it is a reflection of soul. And that is so true. Thank you so much, Belinda, for that. Again, it doesn't matter who you are, the color of your skin, right? Is that correct or no? Am I off on this? Kindness perpetrates through all races, all socioeconomic classes. You can be kind if you're poor. You can be kind if you're rich. You can be kind if you're black. You can be kind if you're white, and everything in between. It has no bearing on what your religion is, who raised you, where you grew up. You can choose to be kind to all people, regardless of their backgrounds. And I think there's a problem in our society that's trying to, in the name of trying to say that we're trying to eradicate racism, to actually drum it up and feed the fire of racism. It's not really doing anything to help it, using certain terms that we'll see here in the story coming up from CTV. Sheila didn't get notifications last week. You were live. Oh, last week? No, you wouldn't have got notifications because we weren't on all of last week. We actually had a vacation. The first week-long vacation, I think, in 2.5 years from the show. So I think, yeah, just because I didn't have anybody to take on the show while I was gone, we had to just kind of put it off for a week. So Marianne, he was on vacation. Oh, yes, that's true. I just said that. Okay, Denise, Qatar in BC, Canada. LNG, Qatar's state-owned energy giant, Qatar Energy, has carried out extensive appraisal activities at its giant natural gas field, uplifting its gas reserves and laying the groundwork to raise the Persian Gulf states' liquefied natural gas (LNG) production capacity to 142 million tons per annum before the end of 2030. So that's interesting. I wonder what those implications have. Is Canada going to be able to use some of the natural gas? If so, I think that's at least more positive than getting rid of natural gas, which is a very clean burning fuel that does little impact to the environment, if any, less than solar panels and windmills. I can guarantee you that, and car batteries that are very destructive because of the mining activity that needs to take place. What are you going to do with your batteries once they're over and done with? So you have to take in the whole consideration of what other alternatives do to the environment while we're trying to lessen our fossil fuel use. Evelyn, that drug abuse in Vancouver has been open use for over 30 years. They don't have jail cells to bother arresting them. So yeah, that's been interesting what's been going on in BC. And it looks like we're at our health unit trying to take a page from them. They're looking like they're the example for us. And that's pretty sad. Grand Rising, Monique. Heart emoji, sunshine emoji, or a happy face emoji. Thank you, Monique. Thanks for being with us. And Belinda also says, hate isn't something you are born with. It's cultivated and programmed by institutions that want division for their own agenda. Love and acceptance is natural and easy. For sure, it is easier than hate. 100%. Now, has one particular race under the banner of a flag that represents their nation gone in and done atrocities to others? Yes, over time, many nations, not just one, many nations with different ethnicities and different colors have shown that they are capable of a lot of hate and doing a lot of bad things to a lot of people, regardless of color, religion, ethnicity, background, age, class, you name it. People are capable of love. People are capable of hate, regardless. And we want to be able to drive this point home this morning. Maurice, good morning to you with a smiley emoji. Good morning. And Marianne says they are pretty generous with resources that we own, eh? And that's speaking of the natural gas that Denise was referring to. And Denise also goes on to say heat pumps for Canadians, notable challenges for Canadian companies. In Qatar, Qatar is highly competitive as major players from the US and the EU are represent and well entrenched in the industry. Pre-registration is required on the preferred vendors list in Qatar Energy, so no pre-registration for open tenders. A local presence is not required, but is an advantage, including joint ventures with local partners. So again, if you want more on that, look into what's going on in BC with the Qatar-owned company, looking at exploiting some of our resources here in our country. Good morning, all. That's Jerome with a strongman emoji with a Canadian flag emoji. Good morning to you, Jerome. Thanks for being on. Marianne, been raining here the last 4 days. Yeah, you know what? Actually, the rain's been quite nice for a little bit. And then we're going to experience some sun in the next couple days coming up. Water levels are very low. That's very interesting. Speaking of the rain, I don't know why our water levels are so low. We have a river in our back, and it's just, I've never seen it so low. And that's the water table. Basically, our water table is very low. Makes me question why. And, is it natural or is it not? I have no idea. But it's extremely low. Okay, so Denise goes on to say, inquiring minds want to know the truth. Market forecast by technology, high energy lasers, high power radio frequencies, electromagnetic weapons, sonic weapons by platform, land, airborne, naval, space by end user, ship based land vehicles, airborne, gunshot by application, homeland security, defense, and competitive landscape. So um, I know there's a lot of things you just shot out there, Denise, um, but you definitely hit on some topics there of what people can look into for sure. Liette, good morning, everyone from Collingwood. Good morning to you as well. Uh, Liette, thanks for being on. Monique, also, we, the white race, and now we are the minority. And that is true. We are the minority. Even in the world, we've always been the minority, or at least in the last 1,000 or so years. I don't know about before that, but we are the minority in the world, period. If you look at the population of China, look at the population of India, look at the population of places like Brazil and other Africa, we are the minority. So it's interesting, very interesting. Denise says, racism is alive and well in Canada. All my life, I've heard the government and media driving it. For sure. That's what I mean. It's not, it's elite supremacy. It's not white supremacy. The elites control mainly the government, whether anyone wants to believe that or not. The media, for sure. Our education system, our medical system. These aren't people, just everyday average people that formed these institutions. They're people at the highest levels with the most influence and the most money and the most power. So talk about systemic. They make systems. People have very little to do with systems. They have things to do with individual choice, something you do on your way to work, whether you can smile at somebody, wave, say, hey, having a good day today. These are things that people have power to do. And they can do remarkable big things. But when it comes to systemic things in the world, there's very little they do for those things. Like, can you control the way the government's organized? Like, if you try to make a difference between the way that the monarchy has power over Canada through the Governor General, and then the way Parliament is set up, and the way the legal system is set up, what are you going to do to change that? The system, systemic, right? You have to be a pretty big fish in the world. And even if you are a huge fish, you try changing that order of things. You yourself. This is systemic for sure, but it's not from white supremacy. That, even if there is white supremacy, which I believe there is, and I don't believe it's as big as they say it is, white supremacy, meaning you think you're better than everyone else just because of the color of your skin, and you're going to inflict hate on another person and try and hold them back and try and do harmful things to someone else because of the color of your skin, that's a very rare thing. But systemically, so let's take residential schools, for example. Was that a white thing? Was that because they were white they did that? Or is that because they were following orders from the monarchy and from the large religious organization that was heading it up? So was it a religious thing? A government thing in terms of the monarchy or the Canadian government? Or was it a white thing? Right? You gotta sort these things out and really give blame, if there is blame, to the proper organizations that deserve the blame, that are behind it. I think it's just too easy and wrong to say that it's a color of a skin thing. This whole idea of white and this privilege, Like I had a problem with it when I first heard it, and I still have a problem with it now. So systemically, there could be generationally people that have benefited from the elite supremacy, the elite supremists, not the white supremacy, but the elite supremacy that made the systems could have had an effect for a particular people over another. And generationally, it compounds. So like we see from the residential schools, generationally, it deteriorated the indigenous society to a large extent, and it's a huge black eye with many scars. And who caused that? White people? That many people just stand up and say, well, of course, it's white people. But was it whiteness that caused that? The color of their skin caused that? How can the color of a skin cause something? That's impossible. Could elite people with all the power to control everything, which they have the most influence, the most power, the most money, be able to shape societies regardless of the color of their skin, have caused that? I'd say yes. That's who caused that. Did they use people who had white skin to carry those things out? Yes, they did. Could it have happened in any country with any color of skin, regardless? Yes, it could have happened, and it has. If you look at the history of China, if you look at the history of Russia, you look at the history of India, you look at the history of Africa, and you may just look in recent history and say, well, yeah, certain white people, the ones that had the power, the economic power, the world power, the power of military, the power of endless amounts of wealth, who happen to have white skin, they use that privilege for things that inflicted harm on people. But it could just easily, if you switch the roles and you give all that power and all that money and all that might to someone with a different pigment in their skin, I guarantee you 150,000,000% the same things would have happened, because people with absolute power corrupts people absolutely, not white people. It just so happened that the people at the top are white. Now, they utilized their close relations and things and built up societies because they came from a mainly white society to go out and do their bidding for them, to pay them money. And who throughout history hasn't done evil things for money? Like that's the biggest thing that influences somebody to do evil is money. We've seen it the last 4 years. We've seen people do things, they go against their own conscience to do evil things. So again, okay, I'm just going on a rant here. Denise, hearts are universal food, binds the people for sure. So hearts bind, the people. What's in our hearts, and that's 100% right. The elimination of the white race is now underway, all by design. Again, right? So maybe that's the first time you've heard that. And maybe we need to look into that and look into, is that true? Could that be? Do we see signs of that? Marianne, Bill C-293, dangerous for every Canadian. They're making it a law that the WHO, the World Health Organization, will have the power over the next pandemic, or as you say, plandemic, and over our bodily autonomy. They don't have my consent, and it's illegal at the international laws, which they are ignoring. So we talk about our body, our choice. It's only good in certain politically infused conversations, right? That's what I think about some of these movements where they have these slogans, but it doesn't apply for everything. only applies for one thing, as long as it goes along with your politics. Legalizing safe consumption on drugs, this is Evelyn, in Vancouver is a myth. It's population control, because there are no resources to help the drug addicts. Marianne says yes, which is so sad. It's not right. Marianne, the Senate are on the third reading, which is sad. We don't have a say. And that's to do with the WHO having all power over our bodies and what we do with them. So we can see you can kind of see the writing on the wall here. Meanwhile, most people in Europe are drowning under the floods. That's Monique. Belinda says Trudeau stated the very concept of a nation founded by European settlers is offensive to me. All stock white Canadians are unpleasant relics and quite frankly replaceable. We will replace them. So Trudeau stated that? That quote would be gold to get a hold of. But I know he believes that. There's no doubt about it. I pieced together just different sayings, things that he's said over time, and I know he believes that. I'd like to see that particular quote. Marianne, we have no say with government. They have gone rogue. But of course, we pay the bills, right? That's true. We are the financial drivers. Denise, the global machine don't discriminate. One earth, one people, under one God. They do create division. They have studied human condition. These families keep secrets from the world to control. Keep lifting the veil, meaning keep researching and keep looking and keep studying and keep trying to find out who's the real, person behind the mask or people behind the mask, like Supertramp. Let's rip off the mask and let's see who's behind the crime of the century. Correct? Every race has supremacists in them, and that is true, Bob. 100%. Let's look at real history, not fabricated bullcrap. And let's just think for ourselves. Every race, people of every class known to man are capable of atrocities, and we see it throughout history. All religions are corrupt. This is Evelyn. Criminals behind all churches and abuse the meaning of God in general. Religion has definitely done a lot of harm. Religion has done a lot of good as well. If you're looking, like, let's say, would you rather have an ultra religious world similar to what we've had in the 50s with all of its bad sides as well, or would you rather have what we're having now? I don't know. It's a toss up. But religion is another one of those subjects, right? And when you're trying to get to the bottom of things and pull back the layers, there's a lot in that subject to do. And good morning, Andrew. Thanks for being on. Thanks for checking in. And Marianne, I saw a video of a whistleblower that links Trudeau and Champagne to stealing millions of taxpayers' money. Let's hope something comes of it. Yeah, you know what? I saw something about that too, and I was just like, it's just going to be part of everything else he's been involved in and just get swept under the rug. So much corruption all over the place at the highest levels in this country and in the world. Monique, good morning, Sudbury, with a smiley emoji. Thank you for being on. Liette, no such thing as white privilege. It's elitist privilege, which is true, controlled from the top down. Skin color matters not. Hatred deliberately created to cause division and control. Is that not true? We've already passed the point of having a black president. Remember, that was the huge thing. Will we ever have a black president? Will we ever see, in the United States, that is? I would say a good 60% of the people in our government are people of, what we would say minorities, even though someone already made the point that white people are the minority, which we are in numbers. But our government is chock full of people from all different races, ethnicities, religions in this country. But we're still saying, that there's some other privilege that isn't available to all people, which I don't know when we're going to realize that, hey, doctors, lawyers, athletes, prominent people of all different races, ethnicities, and because it's been the Western way to grant everyone the same opportunities over many, many years. And we see that. Now, whether people choose to take those opportunities or not, one could say, well, the system, I don't want to be part of the system, so I don't want to take those opportunities. And that's a legitimate concern, and that's fine. But the ones that have taken advantage of the opportunities that are there in our Western society have been able to do anything any white person has been able to do. It's the land of opportunity in the West. It has been for the last 100 years or so. So much has been done for so many people, but yet they're the ones being told they're racist. Try going to China. Try going to China and try being part of their Communist Party if you're white. See what happens to you. Try going there and try to be a citizen. Try to do what you can do here if you're another culture or race in the West, and try doing it there. Try doing that in India. How many white people do you see in the Indian government? Or in Black Africa? How many white people do you see in their government? Well, you might say, well, they don't need to because they control all the corporations and all these things. And to some extent, that's true. But it doesn't come back to white people. It comes back to the small group of elite people that made systems that we now have in the world. And those same people now want to turn the tides and call white people the enemy for some reason, in every way, shape, or form. And it's a blatant thing. You can see signs of it everywhere, including this latest health unit study they're going to be doing. Evelyn says, rephrase that. All religion churches have corruption within them. Criminals hide behind the church. Perfect. I appreciate that correction because there's very amazing teachings that come from many religions that have changed a lot of lives for good, and then had a duplication effect where they've gone out and done really good things and helped the world. And I'm going to have to be moving on here, guys. It's just, I know there's probably a lot of comments here. So, Debbie, the issues do not lie within color of the skin. The issues are now lying with the Canadian or non-Canadian. That is a thing for sure, as we see. Went to Wyoming. Not Wyoming. I went to Wisconsin. We just got back. We went there on Friday and Saturday. And I never saw one East Indian person in Wisconsin. And that was just noticeable. I was just there for 2 days, and then all of a sudden I said, because we were in restaurants, the owner of the hotel we stayed at was East Indian. So that was it. Only one person the whole time I was there, and we were out and about doing all kinds of things. So it's extremely noticeable that our Ontario Canadian government is aggressively bringing certain populations here in masses, and other states are not doing that. And it's noticeably different to good or bad, whatever that means. I'm just saying that that's what's happening. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it comes with issues. If we look at our housing issues that we have, if we bring 1 million people to Ontario in a year, we bring 1 million people to Canada in a year, let's say, which we do. We need 1 million houses or 1 million apartments, which we don't have. So what does that do? It drives up the demand for housing, which drives up the cost, which then makes people not be able to afford to live, which then increases homelessness, and then people can't afford food and they got to go to the food bank. It's a perpetual thing. So you can see how but that's not a racist thing to say. Oh, I've heard people from South America, people from Africa say the exact same thing, who had to go through the immigration process the hard way, the right way, the way it's been. And they have a problem with the immigration, how the policies are affecting everything. They can't afford to live here either. And they were looking forward to starting a new life here. And they can't afford it because of the policies, the immigration policies that are very not well planned. So let's just check in with our story of the day here. We'll be back with your comments about this and more. We've already been discussing it, so it's on topic. Here's what the health units are planning to do in the next, for an 18-month study. Tell me what you think.
Over the next few years, Public Health Sudbury districts will attempt to unlearn or undo racism or biases that may be within its policies, practices, or processes. It's voluntary for staff and board members.
Everybody that is involved in the project will start to learn about the ways in which white supremacy, colonization, racism all embed themselves within our society and how it impacts absolutely everything in our society. So it is the root of many of the ways in which we operate.
The project is called Unlearning and Undoing White Supremacy and Racism. It's based on a similar project from British Columbia, and in this instance, white supremacy is defined as ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and actions of white people that could lead to privileges for some and health inequities for others. Rice says it's important to use the correct terminology.
Part of the success of the project in BC is that leadership enabled the staff to be able to use the words that were necessary in order to do this project and to learn about white supremacy and racism and the root causes of it, of the health inequities in our community.
Results garnered from the project could change existing policies or processes and will put an anti-racist lens on future decisions.
I'm not sure that the board members themselves will go and review every policy, but when staff bring us something new or an addition or revision for us to approve, we'll have a better understanding of the concept as to why was this looked at, how come this change can be brought forward, and the reasons why the board could support it.
Once the curriculum from the BC project is adapted for local participants, the 18-month project should begin early next year. Angela Gemmell, CTV News, Sudbury.
All right, so there you go. Thanks, Angela Gemmell, for that. Much appreciated. And this project will be on my radar for sure. I'm going to look into, as they said, BC has already done this study, so it'd be great to find out their findings. And why don't the health unit just take their findings? Why do they have to do their own? I guess to see if white people here are different than white people in BC, which could be the case, right? Maybe it's just BC white people that are racist and not Ontario white people. That could be. Maybe it's your geography you live within, right? Maybe people who live in the mountains who are white tend to be more racist than people who live on flat surfaces are more racist. Are we going to be looking at that? You know, I wonder what this study has to say from BC and white supremacy and what changes they instituted after they found their findings. They said they want to give people permission to use certain terms and to make different changes within our healthcare system. I wonder if it'll lead to, changes like if there's two people in an emergency room and they have to decide which one to take, which maybe it will be the white person who goes last because because they've been racist all this time or something. Who knows? I don't know. I know it sounds dumb, but I thought we were already kind of over stuff like this. I remember watching Sesame Street as a kid. It just started when I was a latchkey kid, single father, coming home from school, turn on the TV. Here's this new show, Sesame Street. And what I noticed straight away was all the different ethnicities getting along, hand in hand. All of the adults on there, all from different backgrounds and races, all talking about positive ways to deal with problem solving and life's challenges and how to do it together. And you can just tell the idea of the show was unity of everybody and not division. And I took note of that right away because I came from a predominantly white city in Northern Ontario, especially at the time. And I didn't see many other ethnicities, only Indigenous would have been the only other one, which I was fine with. Totally, friends who were Indigenous growing up, went to high school on Manitoulin Island, and Indigenous friends. I didn't see color of skin, and I still don't. And I treat everybody exactly the same, regardless of, or at least I try. How about that? I will question if I notice I do treat somebody different for some reason, right away I will acknowledge that, notice it as I self-reflect, because that's something that I've made it a priority to do as I hear all of this doctrine, if you will, being taught on CBC and through our university system, where we're taught that white people are inherently evil and racist and have white privilege. And not only that, white men and males in the patriarchy are evil and only evil intentions, have done evil things and many atrocities. And sitting there in university in a class of mostly female with a female professor, all my professors were female in university, not one male professor, telling me that white males have privilege. They are in the position of privilege, teaching me, making salaries over $100,000 a year. And I was like, what? And they're all white female feminists, which is fine. Again, here's all these divisional terms, right? Feminist, white male, white supremacist, patriarchy, colonization, all of these terms, divisive. And basically I was taught that as I'm sitting there on the Zoom call, because it was COVID, being told I was evil, and felt I couldn't even stand up and say something about it because everybody in the room agreed with it. And even the few white males that were in the class were talking about the same thing. Yes, we are bad. We need to acknowledge our badness. And I was like, where am I? Am I in the Twilight Zone? And this was being taught in universities, continues to be and has been taught for years. It is wrong. That in itself is evil, to be shaping these young minds and telling them that the way the world is through that lens, not teaching them that there has been much good done in the past in our society that have given people the opportunity to have feminist female professors all in the program and not one male teaching. I think the pendulum was probably swinging the opposite way. I was a minority in my class being told I was the majority and caused all these problems in our society, which I know is untrue. There may be certain truths they're saying in there, which there are, but the philosophy in and of itself is extremely flawed because it doesn't talk about all people are the same. Let's start with that to begin, because that's where we begin. As a baby, we start off the same. Conception's the same, no matter who you are. Having time in the womb is the same, no matter who you are. Being birthed is exactly the same, no matter who you are. So it starts off the same. We are all equal. Now, what happens after we're born and who we're born to and where we're born, then things start to change in terms of, were you born into a rich family? Were you born into a poor family? Were you born in a country, in a third world country? Were you born in a first world country? Right? So things have happened over time that have caused differences regarding where you live and who you are. Right? We all start out the same. And so we are all the same. Right? It's just we are all living in different conditions. That's it. If you put anybody in any other position, they will probably end up functioning the same regardless of the color of their skin. It's a deep topic, and we'll continue the conversation tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have a bit of time to leapfrog off of what we're talking about today. Sudbury Star article also talks about that. You can find that at sudburystar.com. And the headline is, we talked about it yesterday, Sudbury project to examine impact of white supremacy on health. Right? And if I can find it, and probably won't be able to, but if I can find the headline, yeah, there we go. So this was found a little while back, and you can see this isn't new. This has been going on for some time. Headline here, Dr. Theresa Tam, who is our Chief Medical Officer of Canada, lists climate change and capitalism as drivers of negative health. What's up with that? Dr. Theresa Tam lists climate change and capitalism as drivers of negative health. So, wow, where did that come from? And now white supremacy, that's also drivers of negative health. What's going on with our healthcare? I thought they were about health. Like, it makes no sense. This is political, divisional, progressive, extremely progressive ideas that are like out of this world. Climate change are drivers of negative health, and capitalism. Like, that's totally a Marxist headline there, taking a stab at capitalism, because Marxist is at war with capitalism. Marxism is communism. That's what Marxism is. So you can see there's such bias in our world. And who's the enemy here? Who's the target? What's going on? I thought we all had to just try and get along here. And I thought we were all equal. And we all are. And I'll dedicate my whole life to treating others the way that I want to be treated, the same way, elevating others to, if I particularly have a stature in my life that's where I'm able to lift someone up to where I'm at, if I can get ahead in any way, I'm going to bring anyone who wants to come with me. There's no exclusivity in my life, and I know that there's others who are trying to utilize this and politicize the idea of race and color and status and you name it for their advantage. And it's only going to help a small group of people at the top, the elite class. It's all it's going to do. No matter how you kick and scream and whatever, there's a small group of people that are in power at the top. They're elite, and that's who all this benefits. We need to stick together. We need to stop using these terms and look at all this division and just realize we're all the same. We're in the same boat, and we got to start getting along and start utilizing our talents and abilities And if there is an enemy, which there is, you need to recognize who it is, and it's not each other. I guarantee you that. And that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow on the same platforms, God willing, CKLU 96.7 FM between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning, and Facebook and YouTube Live, and then catch us on demand on those two platforms, along with twitter.com/Sudbury News, which is now X, and on our news aggregating website, Sudbury.news. Click on the Sudbury News Talk tab, and conversation continues on Facebook, however, and Earshot Daily is coming up next on CKLU. Have a great, wonderful Wednesday, everyone, and ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.